Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back. And what are we getting into? We are getting into the Netflix series Adolescence. It's taken me some time to come on and do this video. Life has been very much lifing, and a certain few things have come up that I've had to sort out, and that's why you haven't seen really any more videos from me in the past 4 or so days. But I am here now to talk about Adolescence. But before we get into this video, as I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so when I'm doing videos, please comment, like, share and do the good things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1k. Now, I said that I would speak about Adolescence from when I first watched it. As you already know, it is a Netflix short series. It's limited to 4 episodes, and those episodes were done continuously. So there was no breaks within the episodes. They literally just recorded it and went straight through. So the essence of what you're seeing from the actors is the essence as they continue to play through the scenes and the scenarios. Okay, so that's what makes this special as well. I like the fact that they did do this series, because it's something that was needed, and it's something that was needed to be spoken about, especially to highlight the issues of incel behaviors and misogyny happening in our young boys, coming up to our teenage boys, coming up to our adult men, okay, and how that kind of manifests itself. Now, I know there's things going around with people saying it was based on this true life scenario that happened with where a young black lad stabbed a young white girl, but that's not true at all. It's not. So people need to stop making that connotation, and people need to, because I've seen, like, even coming up to the news and people getting up in arms saying that, you know, it's depicting white kids as the troubled ones and the devils and this, that and the other, and that's not true at all at the end of the day, at all. So the creator, who is Stephen Graham, being a mixed man himself, he plays Eddie, who is Jamie's dad within this, and he's the writer and the producer of the show. So basically, and he has put something out as to the reasons why he literally decided to write and script something like this, because as again, it's something that needs to be discussed. It's something that all parents need to be aware of when it comes to their young boys and what they're accessing and the kind of influences that they're having around them. It's not just a one size fits all, which is how it comes about with Jamie, because he comes from a very good family. Yes, there are issues between him and his dad, but not to the point where, you know, he either his dad saw this or any type of behaviour like this coming from his son at the end of the day. So we have Owen Cooper, who plays Jamie, and he is very new. This was his debut, and all I'd have to say is props to him, because my God, he did a stellar job in the way that he acted throughout the scenes that he was in, especially when you get to the 3rd episode and he's having that open dialogue with his psychologist. And we will get there. As I said, I'm not going to go episode by episode, but I'm going to have an open discussion about certain things and themes that I sort of picked out when I was watching it. Okay, so then you have Erin Doherty, who is Bryony, and she plays the psychologist who's assigned to Jamie's case, right? So then you have Ashley Walters, our lovely Ashley Walters, Ashley, who plays Detective Inspector Luke Bascom. And I'd have to say, for Ashley, it was a very good way of seeing him in a different type of role. I've been following this man since he first dropped on the scene, so I know which different roles he plays, and you know, he always is scripted to play the tough guy like the Deshanes and this, that and the other, but he's an all-rounded, well-rounded actor at the end of the day. And then we have Faye Marseille, who played Detective Sergeant Frank, who worked with Luke Bascom. And then you have Christine Tremarco, who played Manda, who is Jamie's mum. You had Mark Stanley, who played Paul Paul Barlow, which was Jamie's lawyer. And then you have Joe Hartley, who played Mrs. Fenmore, and she was the teacher that was taking the officers around the school to try and speak to the students to get them to talk to them. And then you have Amelie Pease, and she played Lisa, Jamie's sister. But then the one thing, because I've been trying to find out the actress who played Jade, who was the best friend of the young girl that got killed by Jamie. Basically, I was trying to find what her name was. So if anybody knows what her name is, if they can drop it in the comments, I will be forever grateful, because I've been looking, trying to search, trying to find, and it's like they kind of miss this girl out, where in the second episode, she was the pinnacle of that episode. Basically, you saw as a black girl how the grief had hit her and how it manifested for her. And I've seen the way that people have spoken about this young girl, how she was depicted, and the anger that she felt. Not really actually digging a bit deeper to say that, you know what, us as black women, us as little black girls, we do feel emotions, a tumult of emotions. And it's how we are able to manage those and manifest those as it comes out at the end of the day. What you have to realise is that this girl was lonely in that school. Like, she was lonely in that school, and the only person who befriended her and became her safe space was the girl that Jamie took away for life. How did they think that she was going to react? How did they think that she was going to manage that sense of loss? And it was a great loss for her, because if you watch in the second episode where they are leaving the school and you see as Jade leaves the school, she's by herself. There's a group of people, nobody goes up to her and speaks to her, nobody asks her if she's okay. Even when she's talking to the police officers, and she portrays her feeling of hurt in terms of, well, why do you want to talk to me now, sort of thing. And she didn't really want to be in that situation or that space with them. The teacher's still then trying to get her to speak, trying to get her to behave. How is she supposed to behave? Her literal safe space, her world, has been taken away from her, and nobody else in that school, as you noticed, befriended her, spoke to her, asked if she was okay, gave her a hug. Nothing, not a bean. And you see that more so as she's walking away from the school, and she's walking by herself, and everybody else is in their crumps of their friends, and even though she's walking, they're completely ignoring her. So you must have realized how much of a lonely space that school was for this little black girl. Like, seriously, I'm wondering if anybody picked that up as well as the storyline went on. So then when we hit back to coming to the first episodes, right, I think it wasn't supposed to be portrayed as a whodunit. Did Jamie do it? Did he not do it? Basically, we were meant to know that Jamie did it, but the way in which they did it is they did it by a step-by-step process. They didn't want us to know ahead of time, because I think they wanted us to feel the feelings that Jamie's father felt when he actually watched his son literally and violently, absolutely violently, take away somebody's life on screen. Like, you couldn't hide from that. You sincerely could not hide from that. And it kind of showed the relationship that Jamie had with his father, because he sat in his father's face and said to him that he did not do it. And at that point, I believed that his father believed him until he saw that footage. And then you see the look of disgust and horror on his father's face, and then he kind of curls himself inwards and turns his back on Jamie, when all Jamie wanted was that presence of his dad to say, it's okay, son, it's going to be okay, I'm there for you. But his dad could not give that to him, and I think that's something that Jamie has taken with him throughout his young life, because he's constantly, as he said in the third episode when he's explaining it to the psychologist, constantly saying that, you know what, I saw when my dad wasn't disappointed in me. I saw when we've tried football and he would look away, when the other parents would make fun of me or the other children would make fun of me. He wasn't very good at the sports that his dad wanted him to be good at, so he felt like he was a failure in his dad's eyes, and his dad kind of showed him that he was a failure in his eyes as well, because Jamie was very much into the arts, but he felt that he weren't able to express himself that way, in the way that he really truly wished to, because he didn't feel that he would be accepted that way by his dad. Then you also have to look at the relationship that Detective Inspector Luke Bascom has with his son. He doesn't necessarily have that good relationship with him, and I think he's more so depicted as, although he's this police officer and probably moved up in the ranks becoming detective inspector, he's not been there on the family front. And this you can see from when he's talking on the, either when he's talking on the phone, or I believe that he's texting, and his son has texted through like he doesn't really want to go to school, and he says, well, the responsibility of that is down to his mum. Basically, he just believes that his dad is the soft touch when his dad is not the soft touch in that sense. Certain situations that go on that it doesn't seem like his son is able to be open and speak to his dad. And the only way that they manage to have a proper, cohesive and open conversation or some type of dialogue is when he attends his son's school, in order to get some more information in regards to what happened to this young girl, and in regards to considering whether this young girl was friends with Jamie because of the emojis that she placed upon his profile. Now, everybody else within that school and all the other young people knew what those emojis meant and knew that them two were never friends in the first place. So when his son, Luke Bascom's son, tried to explain to him exactly what the emojis meant, Luke was not getting it. He absolutely was not getting it, because he is not in that culture in terms of the young children. He is not that involved with his son as you might believe that he would be. And it also comes about in regards to when he turned around and he says son, he called his son, and his son told him, don't call me that. You don't call me that. You call everybody else son, but you don't call me that, which again shows the divide and separation between these two in terms of when it comes to Luke's job, to when it comes to him being a father to his son. So the only time that he actually stepped back, listened and took notice of his son, when his son was explaining to him what these emojis meant, especially when it talked about incel behaviour. Now, when we talk about incel behaviour and how young boys can have misogynistic tendencies, like, they're open to the internet, they're open to everything. So you've got those Andrew Tates of the world who want to like indoctrinate your young lads, because he had a high following. Like, don't get it twisted, yeah, he is where he is at the moment, but he had a major high following, and majority of that high following were made of young lads around Jamie's age, prepubescent and coming into the puberty, into teenagers. So they're getting a convoluted idea of how A, they're supposed to think about women, B, how they're supposed to treat women, and C, how they enact any type of behaviour towards women, because this is what this man here, who they believe knows all and is the be all and end all, knows what to do when it comes to women, how you're supposed to treat them. And there were a lot of boys taking what he said and actually using it within schools, because there's a lot of situations where this has come up, where these young lads have been filmed making really nasty and derogatory comments towards girls. Then you've got like in Europe somewhere, where you had them 700 and odd men, young boys, young men on there literally talking about the ways in which they wanted to cause harm to women. So you have to have conversations about this. Like, it's even in with Jamie's mum and dad at the end, when you see them have their conversations, and you know, they start to speak about the life that Jamie had, and the dad starts to speak about how he did react to his son, how he used to turn away from his son, not realizing that his son picked up on all that and really was trying his hardest to be able to have that relationship with him, and knowing that he was failing in each and every time. So it's now coming to the part where, you know, you realize that Jamie has come from actually quite a normality type of family. So you wonder where he got this view from. And as they said, his dad would say that he would literally come in, his mum said he would come in, he would go upstairs, he would slam his door shut, and he'll be in his room for hours. But they didn't want Sync, like, you know, to check his computer to see who he was speaking to, because it's not something that you would actually put in your brain, that would be something that your child will go and access. So as I always say, is this program was made to make you think. It was made to make you consider the influences that your children would be around, basically, and what you could, the signs probably that you could look for as a parent in that sense. Because it's not saying that Jamie's parents failed him in any way, shape or form. It's not like they could read the signs that their son was going to go on to do something so heinous towards somebody else. But you know what, he was influenced by those that were around him, or the access that he had to certain information, or to certain groups, or to certain talks that may have been happening in regards to his own life. But he wasn't able to speak about that with his parents at the end of the day. So in terms of how his relationship was with his dad, he didn't have that kind of relationship. So it's those types of groups, those types of members that will pick children like this, basically, that will be open to children like this in regards to looking at incel behaviour, in regards to looking at misogyny in young boys. They need something to belong to, and if they're talking to this, I don't know if you want to call it a hypermasculinity of them, that's what they're going to feed into, especially if they're not getting that holistic look of what it is to be a young male growing up in this society at home. They will end up in groups like this, and this is why I think this program was so bloody important for it to be done in the way that it's done, because it kind of wasn't like looking at, as I said, the who done it. It was literally, we knew when they showed us what had happened, how it had occurred, but we didn't know the whys and wherefores of why it occurred, basically. And I think that's how they were working back. Now when you get to the third episode as well, in regards to Jamie and his psychologist, I would have to say, for me, that scene, at first I was like, oh, this is going on a bit too long, but actually it was quite powerful. It really was quite powerful, especially in the wording and the questions that his psychologist was asking Jamie, and the way that Jamie was behaving towards her, especially when he got up in her face. Kind of showed his relationship with women, how he thought about women, how he believed women should be treated, especially in the derogatory terms that he was using with her. And she was good to like literally sit there and stay as calm as she did, because you know that poor woman was shaking in her boots, because there was one part where she literally had to leave the room for a minute and then go back in and restart again with him. And like with Jamie, it was taking us on a journey through his thought processes, the bits where he literally wanted to take control but didn't necessarily have control of that situation, but he wanted to feel in control of that, being the man that he is. It came to a point where you do see his childlike behaviour when he's there saying to her, you like me, don't you? You do like me. And he was literally pleading with her in order to get a good report, because he knew what would happen if he didn't get a good report at all. He knew what would happen if she didn't go away and say some nice things about him. Even though he was pleading for her to look at him and want to be seen as a nice person, I don't think Jamie could compute what he did was severe and disgusting crime in terms of what he committed against a young girl, the violence that he committed against a young girl, because he kept on saying that, you know, as he kept on using the keywords of like, I wouldn't hurt her, that wasn't my intent. Basically his intent was to try and place himself in a position of her wanting to go out with him, when he believed that she was at her weakest, so she would have no choice but to go out with him. And when she rejected him, he did not like that in the slightest, because he felt, as being the man that he is, and probably all the shit that he's watched and taken in, and the groups and forums that he's been involved in, that this woman, how dare she try and deny me? It's in turning how his behaviour was to the psychologist as well, basically. And all that pent up anger and everything came out, and he ended up killing and stabbing the girl. Now, he couldn't compute that he killed this girl. Like, seriously couldn't compute that he killed the girl. He kept on saying, I wouldn't have hurt her. I didn't do that. So even though it was being plastered in his face that you did this to this young girl, he could not compute that he enacted this violence upon another person's body. At the end of the day, he was trying to take himself out of that equation and out of that role. But as I said, his childlikeness and this whole misogynistic behavior that he had going on were interlocking with each other. So that's why he was constantly having these ups, his flare-ups, his ups and downs. And as I said, when it got to the end bit, when he realized that that would be the last time that that woman would be coming to see him, he just literally turned into a child at that point, really wanting her to say that he liked her, and she couldn't say that to him. She could not give him that at the end of the day. And you see how much of a toll that the way that Jamie behaved with her, especially in the times where it was quite aggressive and he was quite violent with his words, and he was telling her about how she believes she's a queen by dismissing the man in the way that she did, and literally picking her apart as a woman, because that's how he viewed this woman, like literally came tumbling down. That's why you see her breaking, the psychologist breaking the way that she did at the end of that, because she had to let all of that tension and emotion out that she was holding in, even down to the point where she picked up the sandwich that she got for him and he'd bitten it, and she picked it up and she couldn't stand to have it in her hands, and she just threw it down on the table because she literally just wanted no part of that scenario, even though she knew that she'd been impacted by this young boy. Because don't forget, he was only 13, so she'd been impacted by this young boy in terms of how he made her feel, especially the derogatory terms that he used against her. So this is why I say the way that Jamie, I'm going to say Owen Cooper, played these scenes, he played his ass off. Like, he literally acted his ass off. He was so believable, like seriously so believable throughout of it. I mean, at first I was like, there's no way he could have, and I was thinking up scenarios in my head before they even showed this video that they got the wrong person, even down to the point where, you know, all the armed police came in and again showed his kid-like self because he peed on himself, and it was his dad that then had to help him clear himself up and tidy himself up as well. Then I like the fact that sometimes within these types of genres, we always see the impact of the victim's family, the impact on them. Whereas this time now we see the impact on the actual murderer's family, because, you know, Jamie was a murderer, and we see what the impact was on those around him and his family too. And that's the scope that I like to look at as well, because it doesn't just affect that one instance, that one instantaneous part of it in terms of the victim and their family. It impacts the murderer and their family too, especially how they're viewed upon in the community. Do you know what I mean? So you could see that Jamie's dad and mom and sister had a hell of a go round, especially when all of this has come out, especially when they know it was their son. It's how people look at them in their community. The dad lost all his business, and that was a new business he'd built up, and it was going strong. This happened, dad lost his business completely. Nobody would pick him up for any type of jobs. He had the word nonce scrolled, spray painted across his van. Even when he was trying to speak to the neighbours to find out if they'd seen anything, they hadn't seen anything. Probably treated as social pariahs. Nobody would talk to them. The same with the daughter, where she says, you know, people have said certain things when she's gone to college, but she just literally ignores it. And then you've got mum who literally wants to move. She wants to up sticks and move completely, because she feels that if she moved out of that area, she'd get away from the whole situation that happened with Jamie, not realizing you move somewhere else, it's going to be a whole new stream of people recognizing who you are, knowing what's happened in regards to your son, and then literally it's the same thing. So what are you going to keep doing? Keep moving. It's not going to happen. What I did note though is that their daughter literally was like really quiet within this. Even though she was part of the main characters, she was overshadowed, like the whole family was overshadowed by the father and how he reacted to situations. You have to also look at the way that Jamie's father himself was parented when they spoke about, like, Jamie's father's dad, the grandfather, even though we don't get to see the grandfather or anything like that. But Jamie's dad does highlight the treatment that he got from his own father. That's how he grew up in that environment and that scenario. And I do believe that he was the heavy-handed, hard-headed one within that family. And what he said basically went. Now, I'm not saying that he was physically abusive or anything like that to his family, because that didn't seem to come across. But especially in terms of getting your voice out and being heard, his was the only one, I believe, in that household that was being heard. And that's how it was portrayed to me in the actual final episode, when he is literally going off at his wife in regards to her suggesting that, you know what, his mum, her mum, basically will find him some work. And he didn't want that, because you know what, as a man for himself, in his standing and where he should be in his family, I believe that it brought shame to him in regards to his actual mother-in-law actually having to look for work for him, when that's not how he should be. He should be able to be the one to be the main breadwinner for this household. So that's the kind of mindset that this father had. So when he starts being like verbally aggressive towards her in that scene, you see her shrink back. She doesn't really have much to say, and his daughter doesn't have much to say at all. So I think his voice within that household is the only one you did hear. His disappointment of Jamie was heard loud and clearly by Jamie, and I don't think he got that in regards to the way that, as he said, he was explained that he would feel ashamed on the football field when Jamie wasn't particularly good at football, and the other parents and some of the other people would sit and make fun of him and stuff like that, and he didn't really say anything in those scenarios. He didn't defend his son, he didn't protect his son from any of that. But his son very much saw the fact that his dad would always literally turn away and pretend that he didn't see him. And his dad did the same thing in the interview, where he would turn away and pretend that he didn't see him and shut himself off. And then he also did the same thing when Jamie did phone up on his birthday when they were on the way from the hardware store. And Jamie literally tells them that he is going to plead guilty. There's no other way that he could do that. And then when he said that, his dad went absolutely silent. And then his mum and his sister had to plug in the gaps. And that's what we mean in terms of the fact that it's almost as though Jamie's looking for validation from his dad and not getting it. And he keeps trying to seek it. And that's exactly probably why he wanted his dad to be his appropriate person when he was getting questioned as well. I don't know what else I can say really about this. I've delved into everything that I've wanted to delve into. But if there's anything else that you lot feel that, you know, could be discussed, then please let me know in the comments. I'll be open to discussion around it. Anyway, this is where I am going to leave it. Thank you so much for hearing me and listening to me on this one. If you have not watched it, then I suggest you really do, and actually gain a clear understanding of what it is that you are watching. Don't go into it thinking, oh, it's just going to be another whodunit type of thing, because it is not. Okay, as I said, it's Adolescence. It's on Netflix. It's a limited series, and it's only over 4 episodes, and they're darn bloody good. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, my renegades, I shall be back again on your screens, because I am now catching up with Married at First Sight Australia. So I'll be back with some more epic videos of those. But as I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so we know when I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do the good things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1K. Peace out.